So first off, thought I'd start out and introduce a couple of actually industry terms, relatively old friends, I think, at this point. So Glenn Edelman of Wine Enthusiast, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how high level how paid search fits into what you're doing.
Sure. Do I get this thing working? Okay. Sorry. I'm Glenn Edelman. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for Wine Enthusiast. I don't know if you're familiar with Wine Enthusiast. We have Wine Enthusiast Catalog, which is our direct-to-consumer brands of everything but wine, we'll put it that way. And we also own Wine Enthusiast Magazine. Paid search continues to be the largest spend we have after our catalog, actually. We started as a direct mail business 30 plus years ago, so pay-per-click is still ginormous for us. The social we're still playing in.
Great. And Jared Lucan, Harman Kardon.
Hi. Whoops, sorry. Jared Lucan with Harman. You see here one of our brands, Harman Kardon. We're a consumer electronics audio company. 18 different brands. We continue to acquire more each day. JBL, AKG, Infinity, Mark Levinson. For us, we're a manufacturer, and we also go direct. So search is an interesting channel for us, as we have to balance our direct business, which I'm responsible for as head of global digital, and then our much larger indirect channel, both online and through stores like Best Buy here in the States or Media Mart in Germany. So search for us is an interesting challenge, both domestically and globally.
Great, thanks guys. And for anybody who's not familiar with Merkle RKG, we've been around for over a decade at this point, I guess. Provide paid search for these guys, also kind of a full-service digital agency. We're part of the larger Merkle organization. I've been with the company for just under a decade, so seen a lot of change in the industry. And the way we wanted to set up today's conversation is we have some data from just retail trends we've seen, and wanted to use that as a jumping off point for conversations here with these guys. I think unique perspectives here. You guys, as you mentioned, both selling direct as well as through other channels. So, the title is competition, right? And in the paid search landscape. And one of the things that we've seen, this is data from our latest digital marketing report. You can get a copy on the table out at lunch. One of the things we've seen is not only are your competitors driving up the competition in the paid search landscape, we've actually seen Google themselves seems to be increasing minimum first page bids, first on non-brand terms, and then in Q2 we actually saw branded terms increase about 40%. So I think the question I have for you guys is, we've heard other people talking about channels becoming more competitive, more expensive, and kind of looking for alternatives. You guys say that paid search is still one of the highest volume channels. Is there a point where that becomes an issue? Is there a tension there?
Yeah, I could talk first. Interesting, Jared said they're a manufacturer that also then went into the direct channel. We were sort of a direct retailer that over the last 7-8 years got into the indirect channel. We have our own branded, house branded products that we're now selling across various marketplaces. So it used to be just, compete in PPC at a profitable perspective and, make the order at profitable, at a profitable perspective. But all of a sudden, in the last number of years, all of our, what I call competitors, but there are resellers, are now bidding on the terms that we have. And at some point, I work with his team and I just say, we can't compete anymore. I know what they're paying. I know what they're paying for the product. I don't know how they're making money. I'm surely not making money. So we have to actually, which was a huge cultural change for us, we have to step back and stop bidding or stop spending. And it was tough, but it's changed the landscape quite a bit.
Yeah, similar story for us. I mean, search is still our largest digital channel from a spend standpoint, but we manage everything to the ROI or to the return on ad spend. And, the reason costs keep going up is twofold. One, the economics still work in Google's favor, right? If you had a chart here of Google's stock price, it would look very similar to the yellow graph here. But then on the flip side is all the startups, all the VC-funded companies that maybe aren't measuring to that ROI. We were talking about Jet.com earlier and their business model and how they're basically taking their venture capital money and using that to fund customer acquisition. So you do get these kind of short blips that overinflate the prices, but over the long term, they tend to correct. At least in our space, the consumer electronics space.
Yeah, and I think that one of the consumer electronics specifically, and I think with the products you sell as well, Glenn, that kind of that something we talked about 10 years ago when you and I are probably on stage together, that long tail, building out those keyword terms, still valuable, for a lot of the, even established retailers. We're seeing that, new terms to a program continue to add 10, 15% to that program in a lot of cases. How do you guys think about, so when you're thinking about these other channels, do you care where the sale comes from? Like, would you, and through the lens of search, is a search customer typically better for you from a longevity perspective, or do you guys find that those are more discount than someone you might get through Amazon or Jet now?
Yeah, I think our answer is going to be pretty different because generally when you're making a consumer electronics purchase, it's a once a year type of purchase. You're buying your headphones and they're going to last you for several years. Hopefully you'll have a good experience, you'll tell your friends about it, and then they'll come back and buy. We do see different average order values through the different channels, but in terms of long-term value or lifetime value of the customer, not a lot of differential there.
The same, and I'll one-up you. About 10 months out of our year, our largest selling category is wine cellars, wine storage cabinets. So you buy that, you're hopefully going to have that for 10, 15, 20 years, God forbid. And our only hope is that people get another home, get a summer home or need a second one, but it's that same thing. There's not much. We don't really look at it from the LTV perspective. It's more how profitable are we on acquiring that wine storage purchaser, keeping them happy through the entire experience. So when it is indeed time for them to buy another cabinet, they'll come to us.
Great. And kind of jumping ahead a little bit to something I think we had talked about touching on, but the notion of a wine storage cabinet, right? You don't get a lot of those potentially purchased directly online. Click a paid search ad and I buy that right away, and probably for some of the electronics as well. How do you guys think about that offline? Whether it's a phone call, whether it's other channels you're selling off of, driven by your marketing. How do you think about that?
Well, we don't have brick and mortar, and a large channel for us is the phone, and it will continue to be. And we redesigned a couple of years ago, and one of the main drivers was to drive people from the web to the phone, because to me that is our unique proposition over Jet and Amazon, is that we have a wine storage consultant on the phone who can help you pick out the right unit for you, especially when you're spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000. And so we have no problem driving people, to browse on the web, go to the phone, and close on the phone. That's most important to us. And outside a holiday, we will see more revenue from our phone channel than we will from the web channel. We'll see more volume on the web, lower average order, but much more higher volume dollars on the phone. And we'll continue to push that because the cost to take an order on the phone relative to a $10,000 order is so minimal.
So I'll take a slightly different take on the question, because phone isn't really a big channel for us, but physical stores are, and not company-owned stores, although we do have one flagship store here in Manhattan, 54th and Madison, quick plug. But that's really about a flagship experience and not about retail. To us, retail are the Best Buys, the PC Richards, J&Rs of the world. And so mobile, and maybe we'll get to this a little later, but mobile's a huge channel for us, just in terms of making sure we give the right mobile experience, so when you're in the store you end up buying our products and not our competitors at that moment of purchase.
Oh, and to add one more, So to sort of answer your initial question was, you spend all this money to drive traffic to the web, they close on the phone, how are we tying it together? We're not, it's impossible. We try our best. We've stopped having the consultant say, can you look at the code on the bottom of your screen? Because people are like, we have an older demographic, they don't know how to scroll sometimes. So we just try our best and hope, you know.
Yeah, I think it's, I like the example earlier, someone said, how many people have seen our TV ads? And it was, you know, months before they launched the TV ads that they saw those and they were driving traffic. So I think, you know, you know, to your point, Jared, we've seen mobile really grow right now. One of the challenges from a paid search perspective, you know, we're seeing it just a little bit under half of Google's traffic. Google actually publicly announced that they're getting over half their traffic is coming through mobile devices, and we're seeing that on the organic side, but part of the issue with us is as advertisers, as the direct ROI, trying to understand what that ROI is, we might not be spending to that optimal level. But one of the things that we do look at is that notion of cross-device conversion. So one of the things that we'll see across retailers is that about 21% of phone clicks from a paid search ad on a mobile device tend to be converting on a desktop or tablet. And so really kind of being able to factor that in. It gets back to the attribution conversations we've been having today, you know, being able to understand what is the real value you're driving from the channel to help you compete in that landscape. You know, something we hadn't touched on and kind of jumped over a little bit, product listing ads. Big format, we've seen traffic increase significantly on product listing ads, now increasing about 41%. I'm going to turn this off. There we go. For your industries, you know, seeing product listing ads up in the 60%, 50%. Do you guys see a difference in the customer types there or behaviors there with product listing ads versus text?
We see a slightly lower average order, but I think that's more of we're just pushing our entire feed into Google Shopping, and so you'll see some more glassware where we won't be as competitive on the glassware side because the average order is much lower. That's about the only reason why. But PLA is obviously, I'm sure for everyone, is tremendous. It's a larger spend than on our text ads, and I told you, we're playing around with this RLSAs for PLAs and looking that holistically, and that's been working really well. But PLAs, once again, starts, everybody gets great conversions, everybody jumps on board, gets very expensive, and how do we manage it profitably?
Yeah, similar for us. It's a higher converting ad, but lower average order value, as it's a lower funnel customer, someone maybe a little more sensitive to pricing, that's doing their shopping and their price comparison. So much so to the point now that we actually stop advertising when you can get our product cheaper elsewhere. So as the manufacturer, we hold to the manufacturer price. We don't want to compete with our channel on a price. And so we actually pull back on our PLAs when we know we don't have a competitive price.
Right, so if you know you're going to ideally get that sale for your brand anyways, why do you need to spend more marketing now?
And also, we spend a tremendous amount of time looking at the product detail page, what that entry page is from the PLAs, because people are entering your product page from a long tail or short tail term. They Google wine refrigerators and they just happen to be in a 50 bottle wine fridge page. So we're doing a lot, and there's a lot of really cool retailers doing some interesting things on what the new PDP is, and that we're spending a lot of time to help the conversion on that, rather than just showing them that initial product they clicked on. How do we show them, breadth, while also adhering to Google's PLA rules?
So I think that raises a good question. I think a lot of us have heard about the buy on Google, coming to PLAs through mobile, different experience. Obviously, you talk about controlling that experience when they come to your site. Is that something you guys will participate in, do you think? I mean, altruistically, Google's creating this frictionless environment, right? From the evil side of things, maybe, or less altruistic side, you might say that they're trying to maintain and own the customer.
Yeah, so, I mean, it remains to be seen. All the details haven't been released yet in terms of the implementation and who's going to own what data. But in my mind, anything that increases conversion is a good thing and something we should look at. And so it's definitely on our list when they're ready to roll it out.
We might want to test it, but I don't see any good coming from it. This really reducing Google between me and my customer is just, like you said, better for Google, not as good for the wine enthusiast.
Got it. So I think we're down to about 3 minutes. I wanted to see from the audience, any questions for these guys? We have one down here in the front.
RLSA and paid search. How are you guys using that to figure out acquisition versus retention?
So the question is, RLSAs and paid search, how are you using that for acquisition?
Versus maybe like
Retention or versus retention? Yeah.
So for us, one of the interesting strategies that we're testing is leveraging the RLSAs for non-branded terms. Obviously, ROI is a little more challenging in non-branded, but if someone's already been on our site and maybe exposed to our brand through one product category where they were looking at a JBL home theater system, and now they happen to be searching for headphones, we can use that RLSA data and know, okay, this is potentially a more qualified customer to go after for the headphones term, as opposed to anyone else that we just don't know, what type of headphone they're looking for, what brands are they interested in.
And for us, we've stopped looking at RLSAs as a separate sort of, program. We include it overall as a part to look at it. We're doing RLSAs for PLAs. I take what's my spend on the RLSAs, what's my spend for the PLAs, what's my revenue, and I put it all together to see, because I use it sort of as a sort of one tool to grow. And I think once we started looking at it that way, suddenly our PLA program looked a lot more healthy. And so we'll do more, and we'll be more active in RLSAs, and it's only as big as the universe you can build those audiences.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges that we see is the audience size, right? So you're a small percentage on RLSAs, and so the more you can do to build those audiences can help. So if you have multiple brands, as Jared talked about, and you can build audiences off of each other, or if you have a partner, so an office supply company maybe and a business internet provider, being able to share those audiences back and forth really helps you increase that scale, and they're the similar types of customers. So thinking kind of outside the box, I think, is a great way to think about that. Great question.
Curious on the kind of mobile cross-device tracking. We have the sense that we're underbid on mobile. It's hard to really directly measure the value that it's driving back to the desktop. Just practically speaking, any way that you've seen to make that really literal and tangible as opposed to just an approximated, plus 20% or whatever.
I have an idea, but you guys, anything? Oh, sorry. So the question is how do you make the cross-device really tangible? So is there any way to connect it one-to-one rather than the kind of the representation here? I can share an example because I was expecting this question. eBags. Anybody know eBags? I don't know if they're in the room here. Great company. Brooke Wolf first shared this. It was brought up again last week at shop.org. They have an email my cart feature. So when you get to checkout, not only can you continue to check out, but you can actually click on the email my cart, and all it asks is for an email address. What they find is that on mobile, I think something like 24% of their mobile traffic now converts based off of this, because you're not asking for a sign-in, you're just asking to email the cart, so they open it on another device, all of a sudden the cart's there, she's probably shopping out in an environment where she doesn't want to pull out a credit card and make the purchase. Basically, you're reducing friction, and this gives you a tracking opportunity, right? So you can actually track this as an event through any of your analytics packages and put the value of whatever media drove there. So I think it's an amazing solution that eBags is using, and I think it should be industry standard.
Yeah, we're working on creating that right now. And also, next to our buy button on our mobile site is a call to buy now. So you just tap it, and then it calls our phone line, because I always explain how important the phone channel is to us.
Great. Well, I'd love to answer more questions, but I'm being told we're out of time. So.
Okay, so there's a bunch more questions. I'm sorry we don't have more time, but these guys will be here and they'll take more. Thank you all for doing this. Very much appreciated.